Friday, January 29th, and time for your Barbados Today morning news update. An appeal by some restaurant officials to be allowed to remain open for curbside pickups and deliveries during the impending lockdown will not materialize. However, Minister of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship Kerry Simmons says government is open to the possibility of providing some form of compensation for the period February 3rd to 17th when their doors are closed. Financial assistance will also be given to a variety of small businesses, including village shops, vendors, barbers, and hair salons, which will also be closed during the period. The minister said the decision to keep restaurants closed was made to discourage residents from leaving home during the lockdown.
I think the answer to that, unfortunately, has to be no. As I just said to you, it is with the greatest possible reluctance that government has come to this point. This shutdown is not like the shutdown that we went through in the earlier part of last year. And for the very real reason that I just gave to you, there is a tremendously greater degree of severity with regard to this strain that has been identified in Barbados. I don't say that to panic people, but I say that to be real. Minister Bostic began this press conference by telling us of 34 new cases. I don't know what the strain is, but I know there are 34 new cases. We know that over the last few days we've had 3, 4, perhaps deaths. We know that we cannot treat lightly to this set of circumstances, and therefore there has to be a disincentive, a discouragement, for want of a better way of putting it. We need to discourage people from feeling that Monday we're going to go by Kentucky, pardon me calling the company name. Tuesday we're going by another company or wherever to get a drive-through and so on, because it's a little bit of spree time and you could be out on the road and enjoy yourself a little bit.
Simmons said although government's coffers were under significant strain because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was open to discussions with restaurant officials. He, however, made it clear that the government would be proceeding with caution.
I think that a case will have to be made, and I would advise those people who feel they're in that set of circumstances to do a little advocacy and come to us and let us see what is possible and if it is possible. It is true to say that through the fund access and the trust loans, we would have lent assistance to hundreds of businesses in the aftermath of the last lockdown. I don't take lightly the challenge, but equally I have to proceed with caution, because even as everyone is making a special pleading, the reality is that government's resources are also falling. Tax revenues are falling because there is less tax take coming into the country or coming into the coffers of the country as a result of the declining activity. We know, and we've heard Minister Cummins make the point that 10,000 odd tourists would have been in the island over our winter season. I know of a winter season where we had in excess of 250,000. It just gives you an idea of what we're up against. So yes, everyone would want government to come and partner, and trust me, government would do its best. But the reality is there is a limitation on what is possible.
There is a possibility that Barbados will be able to access COVID-19 vaccines from Cuba when it becomes available later this year. The suggestion from Cuban Ambassador to Barbados, Sergio Pastrana. Cuba has been developing 4 COVID-19 vaccines, 2 of which officials are expecting to get approvals for from the World Health Organization before the end of this year.
So this is the scenario now. According to the way this develops, somewhere in the spring we'll have a result of the whole trial, and we'll get back then the possibility of having the vaccine approved by the World Health Organization. And once it's approved by the World Health Organization, it will be ready to be applied. We think it is important for the Caribbean, for Latin America, and for the world at large because we have seen how the market has been the regulator of the development and distribution of these first vaccines. So those countries that are not significant in terms of a market do not have enough money to compete with those rich countries in buying huge amounts, like has happened, etc. And this is the big problem that the COVAX facility is facing.
Another 103 employees of regional airline Liat are to be terminated, joining close to 600 already on the breadline. Some Caribbean leaders have also been warned of the possibility of legal action unless some effort was made to pay the affected workers. This was revealed in a letter dated January 22, 2021, from the airline's court-approved administrator, Cleveland Seaforth, and addressed to Prime Minister Mia Mottley and 8 of her Caribbean counterparts. However, Prime Minister Mottley tells Barbados Today she has not seen the letter. Emmanuel Joseph reports.
In that letter, a copy of which has been obtained by Barbados Today, Seaforth even placed Motley and the other heads of government on notice of possible legal action that could be taken against them with regards to the financial obligations to the Liat employees. Seaforth, who is charged with administering the affairs of the company during its current restructuring process, urged Motley to assist in paying the EC $79 million in severance owed to the 564 workers already put on the breadline. Seaforth said that when the restructuring process is completed, the remaining 103 employees will also be terminated. He disclosed that as of April the 30th, 2020, the total unpaid entitlements to employees across the region amounted to 119 million EC dollars. Seaforth, whose letter also went to Guyana's President Mohamed Irfan Ali, Grenada's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell, St. Kitts and Nevis's leader Timothy Harris, and his St. Lucian counterpart Alan Chastanet, said that based on preliminary estimates, it is highly unlikely that any significant portion of the employees' severance would potentially come from the sale of the Liat estate upon eventual liquidation. He said the purpose of his letter, therefore, is to appeal to the respective governments for consideration to be given to the payment of employees' severance of some 79 million EC dollars. The Liat official cautioned that the letters of support as issued by the respective governments do in fact create a legal exposure for the leaders who, by virtue of their commitment, left the employees with the expectation they wouldn't experience hardship. He said that with the workers continuing to suffer financially and psychologically, a situation made worse due to the impact of the COVID virus, he wants the governments to meet with him as a group or individually to bring relief to the hundreds of employees affected. Emmanuel Joseph for Barbados Today.
3 entrepreneurs from Bonnet St. Michael signed licensing agreements and received their keys to the newly built kiosk. The move is part of the National Building Blocks project organized by the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment. Minister Dwight Sutherland, in congratulating the entrepreneurs, assured that government has plans to include the youth in several jobs initiatives currently in the pipeline, including in the area of renewable energy.
We have to train our young people, and the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, we will embark on a training program to train 1,000 young persons over a 2-year period in the area of the bioeconomy, in the area of the renewable energy economy. And with the view that when we train these young people, these 1,000 young persons, that we will create employment opportunities, and that will become our savior in terms of how we can deal with the loss of the tourism economy. Because we intend to create jobs through renewable energy, through the bioeconomy, utilizing our natural-based resources.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, St. Lucia recorded 16 new COVID-19 cases, pushing the national viral toll over the 1,000 mark to 1,029. More in this report from HTS News Force.
All of these 60 cases are St. Lucia nationals who range in age from 4 years to 76 years. They are from the Castries, Soufrière, Ancillary, Vieux-Fort, Grosselet, Dennery, Babonneau, Micoud and Choiseul districts. The contact tracing team is undertaking investigations to identify the contacts of these confirmed cases. Confirmation was also received of the recovery of 30 individuals diagnosed with COVID-19, bringing the total number of active cases in country to date to 491. Currently, one of the active cases is in critical care at the respiratory hospital, and all of the others are stable. The Ministry of Health reminds all that everyone is vulnerable to COVID-19 and therefore should take personal responsibility to protect themselves, family and loved ones. Given the increased numbers of COVID-19 cases and risk of transmission, everyone is asked to continue practicing the infection prevention and control measures to reduce the spread of the virus.
And finally, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said 2020 brought the world tragedy and peril, and stressed that 2021 must be the year to change gear and put the world on track.
We need to move from death to health, from disaster to reconstruction, from despair to hope, and from business as usual to transformation. The Sustainable Development Goals are more important now than ever. And now is the time to secure the well-being of people, economies, societies, and the planet. It is possible. So we must make it happen together. The world cannot heal from the virus if economies are on life support. An inclusive and sustainable recovery must start now. We need massive investments in health systems everywhere. Universal health coverage, mental health care, social protection, decent work, and children safely back in school.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.